I ended up joining an internship scheme at a well-known FMCG company. I'm not going to name it. I was in that office and it was so boring. Like, oh my God, like there was no work for like days. And then every other day someone would ask me to crunch a spreadsheet. And after 2 weeks, I was like, okay, I can't. Like 3 years at Pathao, hired 700 people, fired 300 people. Needs to be mentioned as well. You guys have probably seen the news. Optimize your LinkedIn like a Tinder profile, right? Like you have to really be intelligent about it. I used to have a very professional headshot of me. Then now I have a photo with of my travels. I have like a photo with a GoPro in my hand.
All right, we're live. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you everybody for joining. We have here with us Sifat. Sifat, I knew Sifat since the Pathao days. He was the director of human resources over there. Since then, he was the one who scaled that team to hundreds of people, got Pathao to that level. And then he went on to join, to live in Indonesia for years, I think. He worked at Kilkit. He does surfing. He does a lot of cool stuff on the side, music. Now he's a professional recruiter as a consultant working for Foundational, a Singapore and ASEAN-based recruiting consulting company. Sifat, thank you for joining us here today in our internal learning session, Air Talks. We try to sort of disseminate knowledge within the team through experts like you who help us learn and be better. So thank you for joining us. Really appreciate it. Well, we will start off with some basic questions. Basically, why don't you tell us a bit more about yourself? We've heard that part, but why did you pick recruiting as a career? Why not? Because I know you've done sales before. You've done door-to-door sales. You could have done a lot of other stuff. Why did you pick recruiting to begin with?
I know, and I totally understand where this question comes from, because no one, people grow up and say, oh, I want to be a doctor or an engineer. No one grows up and says, oh, I want to be an HR professional. It's not really sexy. But I guess in a lot of ways, as I was saying, Sam, a couple of weeks ago, I didn't pick HR picked me. And how that happened really was I didn't pick the thug life. The thug life picked me. It was a bit like that. Just to kind of backtrack, 2016, I came back to Bangladesh. I was a bit of a lost kid, right? I just applied, and this is where this is pretty relevant to you guys. I had, because I graduated in the UK in the year of Brexit, which is when foreigners were not very welcomed at the time, and things were just starting to go south. Now that we've seen a lot of things have gone south in the UK economically. So at that point, there was a huge question mark of whether a company would want to sponsor and hire an international graduate. And even though during my time at university, I had the chance to do a really well-known co-op with IBM, and I'd done lots of different jobs like door-to-door sales. I'd sang on the streets for money. I'd done everything possible as a broke international student, right? But during that time, I had applied to 300 jobs plus in 2016 because I wanted to get a sponsorship and stay in the UK like every Bangladeshi kid does. I had job offers, and I stayed till the last day of my visa and finally decided to give up on that day because I realized, okay, it's not worth overstaying my visa to try to get a job here, which was an option because you do have a 28-day grace period and stuff. But I was like, you know what, let's abide by the rules and come back. So when I came back, I was lost. I was like, I don't know what to do. So I, like any foreign grad, I ended up joining an internship scheme at a well-known FMCG company. I'm not going to name it. But one of the bigger ones, did a product at least one of us uses. So I was in that office, and it was so boring. Like, oh my God, there was no work for days. And then every other day, someone would ask me to crunch a spreadsheet. After 2 weeks, I was like, okay, I can't. I was in such a good, hard-working trajectory in the UK, I can't do it. So that's when Kishwar from Pathao, who's now the founder of I forget his company's name, Mitro, and now he's doing other things. He came to me and just said, hey, look, you studied abroad and you seem smart. You want to come join our team? And that our team was Pathao. I had no idea what the product was. I met Elias, the founder, and I was like, let's do it. Let's go. Because he offered me a job on the spot. When my first 3 or 4 months, I didn't know what I was doing. I was sometimes helping him make investor pitch decks. I was sometimes helping train drivers. I did everything. And then all of a sudden we were trying to hire. So I naturally ended up talking to a lot of external people because there was no one in the team in Dhaka at the time who was very polished, who had worked with bigger organizations before. I had done an internship with IBM for a year. So I just had IBM on my LinkedIn and CVM, which was a big deal, right? And that's what made me that external person. So whenever, let's say, Ilyas or Kishwar reached out to someone on LinkedIn, they wouldn't respond. But when I reached out to them, somehow people would be a little more prone to responding and talking to me. And so I became that recruitment outreach guy. And then we were trying to recruit a head of HR for for about 3 months. We couldn't find anyone who was suited to the complexity of our company. And so investors came up to me in February of 2017 and said, "You've been doing a pretty good job with recruiting. Why don't you become head of HR?" And I was like, "Okay." And I said yes. And then the first thing I did was go back to my laptop and Google, what does the head of HR do? So that was essentially my journey into being eight years down the line. I have now faked being an HR professional successfully for 8 years and worked around the globe. Pat on the back for me. So that's how why I'm telling you this is I didn't really choose to be an HR professional. It just kind of happened, and I found a lot of natural synergy with my skills, with my people skills, and building processes and looking at data. I was able to humanize it in a lot of ways. আর একটা জিনিস HR নিয়ে অনেক মজা, and I'm sure you guys have learned this the hard way, is when you're trying to, let's say, I've seen the product and what you're working on, when you're trying to take people and trying to answer the question, hey, are they a good fit for this company or this role or not? The answer that you're trying to get to is a binary yes or no, right? Like a yes, black, or a no, white, right? But in reality, people are very complex and people are very gray, right? One person's a great coder, but they're a shit person. One person is a very nice person, but he takes time to solve a problem. There's so many variables when it comes to people, and thanks to things like products like Airwork AI, we're able to break down this personalities of infinite levers into yeses or nos, or some sort of logical breakdown that we're able to offer jobs, and that's the whole art of HR, where it's a science and an art, where you have to kind of look at logic and look at people who are illogical most of the times and try to combine that well. And I found that quite exciting, and that's why I was excited to meet Simon a couple of weeks ago again after a while, and excited to do this, right? So that's just the backstory. Then I'm gonna fast forward. 3 years at Pathao, hired 700 people, fired 300 people. Needs to be mentioned as well. You guys have probably seen the news. Then I got offered a job at Gojek, which was one of our investors in Indonesia. Went to Indonesia. That was a really good learning for me. It was kind of like going back to school for me, because all of a sudden I was a small fish in a big pond. I got to learn a lot. I worked with the GoPay product, which is similar to bKash and Pathao Pay, and was there NHRBP. Then I wanted to work in a smaller environment, worked at a SaaS company called ClickIt, helped grow that team across 5 countries. And then I had another my career hit a wall where I was like, acha, I kind of realized that HR, sadly enough, and I'm sure you guys would realize that as well, is always seen as a back office function in every company, right? Either you're building the product, you're super important if you're an engineer or product manager, or you're selling the product because that's what's bringing in the revenue. Everything else is secondary and back office. So I was sick of being almost that back office guy, and I was like, well, how can I be the revenue generating function of a company? And I realized, okay, I should be in my last company, the company was saying B2B SaaS, and that was the product. How can I be the product, or my skills be the product? And that's what the recruitment world is. So now what I do is I work pretty much as a freelancer, but I work in the network of a company, a recruitment company in Singapore. We attract companies that need hiring done, and we come in as the experts and we do the hiring for them. And if it's a successful hire, you guys know the model, how it works. We get a fat commission, and that hopefully feeds us for a few months until we get our next close. So it's a high risk job, but extremely rewarding because I'm in a revenue generating function, and also it's a nice intersection of, again, the art of people management and the science of looking at data and numbers and trying to break things into zeros and ones. That's kind of my background and how I got here.
Okay. You were right that HR picked you. You did not pick HR when you said that. So you scaled Pathao to, let's say, 700 people, right? How did you go about deciding the workflow? Like it is a lot of people. So in order to hire 700 people, you have spoken with thousands of people. How did you manage that scale of operations? How did you break it down and go about doing it?
Sure. Great question, right? And one thing that we have to realize is, and you will realize that as well as an early stage startup is, we hired a lot of people. But out of the 700 people, am I proud of every hire that happened there? Probably not. We had to let go of a lot of people. There was churn, there was attrition. A lot of things went wrong. Business lines that we thought would do well didn't do well, and the ones that we didn't think would do well, and we hired the cheapest people there, ended up doing really well, and things like that. So those things happen. First of all, I want to clarify, we hired 700 people. Were all of them very thoughtful, well thought out, well processed, and well documented hires? Probably not. But a bunch of them were, and that's why Pathao became the brand that we know it today, and something that I can look back and be proud of. How did we do it, right? I think it was very, very, very position to position varied. I would say a lot of the hires that we made in the early days, 2016, 17, they didn't really follow our process. And you have to think about where certain brands as an employer are, right? Like, let's say if we're looking at employers who already have bKash is Bangladesh's number one employer, right? Everyone wants to work for bKash. Best salaries, best benefits, best office, everything. It's very easy for them to post a job and get 300 CVs incoming in the first hour. Whereas when you're an early stage Airwork or a Pathao, it might not be that easy to attract the right talent. So we all had a strategy of outbound and inbound. Inbound, how do we make our job postings and our outreach on the internet where there's a lot of noise, very, very sexy and fun. That was what we had to think about, and then the outreach was okay, let's break it down. We tried hiring from the bigger, well-known, the best-known employers in 2016. Dhaka was BAT, Unilever, right? There was a lot of development organizations that hired the sharp, brilliant people who had good education. But a lot of the time after we interviewed those people, even though we were excited after seeing their CV, we kind of realized, man, they will not last a day here. And sometimes they were false hires. We hired people within 3 months. We're oh my God, they cannot survive in this environment. We now have to get rid of them, right? So if answering your question, it was a combination of inbound and outbound strategies, depending on level, depending on personality, and depending on and a lot of trial and error in terms of understanding this is who we need and this is who we do not need. I'll give you some data points, right? And Simon, you're gonna hate me for this. In Dhaka, if you're looking for smart business graduates, what university comes to mind? Smart
IBA.
Business graduates, the most polished ones. Where do they come from?
IBA.
Okay, so every time we tried to hire an IBA person, we had a very negative experience. There was one person I hired for my team. She was brilliant. Offered her the job. She came, signed the papers, and then she didn't show up to day one. And I had all these things planned for her because she was I was oh man, this person's gonna change the game for us. IBA graduate, super smart, let's go. And then I called her. I was yo, you're joining today? And then she was oh no, I talked to my parents and they don't want me to work yet. I'm you could have let me know a day ago at least, right? You should have let me know a month ago, but so just sorry, sidetracked with that, but
there's a reason why we don't have any IBAs in the team as well.
You are an IBA.
I chose myself and no one else.
So essentially we had to do this trial and error things to find out, okay, you know what, IBA folks are not going to want to work with us because they have a preconceived notion of what a good company is, and at that point we didn't have a nice office. Nowadays people work in a very nice office at Pathao, we didn't, right? So we're okay, who are the types, what are the universities where graduates would just be happy for a job like this and would want to work hard? One of my best hires was from East West, and someone who I keep he's now the head of HR at Loop. He was an intern, and he's just the hardest working guy I know, right? Then a bunch of NSU folks, and I realized not the class toppers in NSU, the finance grads in NSU, the ones that had a CGPA between 2.8 and 3.5 were the optimum hires, because they were sort of in that BBA program where it was very competitive, but then again they were not the top ones being picked by the nice companies, and they were hungry to prove themselves, and you could hire them for 15K and they were still happy for the first 6 months at least. So I was okay, cool, this is a good bunch. hired like 15 of those. I think like at least 10 of them were very, very, very useful in growing the company. So that was that was like kind of the trial and error that we had to do on the junior side of things. On the senior hires, it was a really hard grind. I think we did end up having some good hires from Grameenphone. One really powerful hire that we had from Bikash. But then again, it was a lot of just like, so we early days, right? We used to do this thing called the talent crawl. So we would get the 20 most important people or the 20 most people in the company who had the biggest network in LinkedIn. We would get pizza and sit in an office after hours, 6 to 8, and we would just be like, okay, let's play music. Everyone put their headphones on or like just like get in the zone, and we're all on our laptops. Find out everyone. We would do these Boolean searches, and we find out everyone who's interesting, and get their profiles on a spreadsheet or send them a message right now. So through these talent crawls, we were able to get like 150, 160 solid leads where like the criteria was they are in a high performing environment like a Bikash or a Grameenphone or whatever, and like they're in a very good job. Like they're the people that would be dream employees for us if we can convince them to hire us. And we had one mutual connection with them from the team, right? Someone knew me, someone knew one of our head developers, or someone knew the CTO, whatever. And so we had at least one in there. Okay, if you want to approach this person for this position, we have a warm lead. We have their phone number, or we have their email, or we have some sort of interaction with them. That was a strategy that worked really well. Other strategies that we followed, right? I'll tell you, 2018 March is when the news broke worldwide that Grab is acquiring Uber in 8 countries in Southeast Asia. So our COO at the time, Pathao COO, was an ex-Uber person from North America. And he basically said, look, I know how Uber people are like. They are going to hate this. There are probably 300 like very capable ops managers right now in Uber Southeast Asia who are really pissed off. So that's when I didn't even have LinkedIn Premium. We spent it on our credit card and we got LinkedIn Premium. I got 5 of my management trainees at the time at Pathao to log into that LinkedIn Premium account and find at least 100 of these people and put them on a spreadsheet and cold message them. And from that, we ended up talking to a bunch of people. We ended up hiring one person who was our head of CX. He was a Malaysian gentleman. He came over and stayed with his wife here for a year. And he took our CX function from here to here. Like we were able to cut down on agents and like basically make it into a proper CX operation because of that, guys. Yeah, that's how it was, right? So we kind of took every problem as a unique problem. When we look at a grad problem, we had one approach. When we had the engineer problem was a very interesting problem to solve. I'll talk a little bit about that too. Early 2017, we started trying to reach out to as many engineers as possible, and that thing that we did back then is now what's turned into, Fahad's events like Prompt to Product and Product Pulse and all that. So we did an early version of those where we would just call 30, 40 really good engineers and be like, oh, we're having an engineers meetup. And it was all like a sales pitch for Pathao. We got them into the office, we gave them pizza, we gave them, we were just talking about the product we're building and how much investments we're bringing in. And we were giving them, almost making it seem like we're giving you insider information that no one has. And then, we at the day after the event, we could see that some people were very engaged and very smart and they asked very good questions. And we're like, okay, we need to go after these people. And some people were like, not that great. So the 10, 15 people that were like, wow, I really want to work with this person. We did a lot of problem solving and we want to hire them. And that's how we hired our head of data science, who was with us for, I think, 3.5 years. He left once and then came back again. Those are how we got that offer. So I think if there's a takeaway for the team here, look at I think large buckets of what is the talent that, if you look at it from a company perspective, like which talent is where are we short of talent, which skills are there, where are these people, and just have a customized approach of where we want to find them. If it's engineers, give them freebies, nice office, like what they value. If it's grads, give them a product. They might not, money might not be their biggest motivator. They're more motivated by responsibility and wanting to go up a ladder. Give them a ladder that they value. If it's gauge it up, whoever values whatever they value, give it to them and figure out a funnel. That's it.
So learned a lot. You guys used a combination of inbound and outbound. You did events. But when you get a profile, when you meet someone, you get their LinkedIn or you get their resume, how do you judge that person? How do you know that this is the right person for this particular role that I'm looking for?
Yeah. So I have a mental model for that, and this is a mental model I learned from a very a very simple book. There's a book, and it's a nice read actually. It's called How to Be a Great Boss. It's got an orange cover. I don't know if anyone's read it. It's a yeah. So in that book, there's a theory around hiring called GWC, which stands for Get It, Want It, and Capacity to Do It. So if you think about the three, these are the three things you screen for, right? So if you think about capacity to do it, that's actually the easiest thing to measure, because that's like the capacity. Like, okay, so the person, let's say you're hiring an engineer, they need to be able to code Python, whatever, right? You give them a Python test and you see, okay, this person has the capacity to do Python at this level. If you're looking for, I don't know, someone to sweep the floors, you give them a trial floor sweep. They sweep the floor, like, okay, they have the physical strength and the flexibility and the spatial awareness to be able to do it. So that's the easiest thing to measure. Then you have to measure want it. How badly do they want this job, right? So there's an easy way to measure it is like throw them hopes and see how they react, right? A lot of the times, if there was about 4 or 5 stages of interviews and with different people and assessments, a lot of people from science prestigious institute would get a little bit annoyed, right? Like, oh, like, you're such a new company, like, why do you have to do so many hoops to get through it? And that's when you kind of understand, like, this person probably doesn't want the job that bad, but if BAT was throwing them a 5-step assessment process, they would do it like their eyes closed, right? So that's one way to kind of see the wanted. The other like smaller things you'd see is like, are they showing up on time? Are they being very fussy about their interview timings? Are they what is their body language? How are they asking questions at the end of the interview? What are the questions like? Are they very curious to know about the company, or they're kind of like, I'm just here just cause I'm going to get 5 jobs anyway, right? So that's how you can kind of see the wanted. So you see the capacity with tests, the wanted with like general attitude with the process. But the hardest thing to measure is like, do they get it or not? And I think the easiest way to describe the get it is like, man, some people call it culture fit, but the other times is like, Pathao, I mean, still now I would say is a bit of a shit show on the back end, right? 100 things are going on. There's a lot of different variables. Stuff is breaking. Tech always breaks. Are they able to okay with ambiguity, right? How do you measure that? It's really hard to measure. But what we did is like, we tried to get to know the people as people. Try to know about their personal lives. We found some rock stars who were like, who were crazy enough to admit in an interview that, hey man, like I'm financially struggling and I'll do anything, right? And this is how I've like survived for the last few months. I'm not saying that those are the best hires, but I'm saying like you can really see like the kind of personal challenges people have gone through and iterated and problem solved for, and really understand, okay, you know what, you can probably thrive in a chaotic environment because of who you are as a person. But people will surprise you in the best and worst ways possible. Sometimes people who, you look at them and be like, I don't think this guy's going to be a good hire, but then they kick ass. And then sometimes you're so sure that someone's going to be a good hire and someone's going to work hard, and 3 months later they disappoint you. So it's really hard. But yeah, that's my mental model, right? Like get it, want it, and capacity to do it. So with the capacity, pretty easy. That's what you guys do with your software. Like try to give them a screening test, right? Like when we hired our management trainee schemes, a lot of different very sharp grads. They all seem sharp, all 10,000 of them. How do you funnel them down? We just gave them 30 SAT questions and gave them like a 60-minute time limit. And the actual ones that were very cognitively like sharp, that like we could literally numerically see like who are the ones that got above 15 out of 30 in that test. And some people who are very well spoken, they couldn't even get like a 3 on that test, and we're like, okay, bye. Like you're cool, but I won't hire you. So that's capacity, wanted. You look at the different levers. The whole thing is, again, I think going back to that notion of what are the different levers you want to test for in a person, and how do you break it down to zeros and ones with assessments and steps of the process and see how they react.
Okay. A follow-up question, and this one's from Deepa. How important is cultural fit versus technical ability? How would you rank culture over technical skills?
Yeah, I think definitely. I mean, the obvious answer is that culture fit is like higher, right, than technical ability, because technical ability, if they have the right attitude and mindset, and then they can learn. But I think the trap that a lot of companies fall into with culture fit, he's a culture fit, let's hire him, is how do you define culture fit? right? What is your culture? Is your culture like, just because you're cool and you speak good English and you can work with foreigners and you are presentable in front of clients? Is that the real culture fit, or is the real culture fit things like not losing your head when things are hard? Is the real culture fit like being okay with being adaptable with ambiguity, right? Like being able to take ambiguous challenges. Is the real culture fit like when things are really breaking, can you put in those 2 extra hours in the office? Or is a real culture fit even if you're not showing up at work, are you delivering results, right? Like from home. Like I had a team member, a very close team member, who had a special needs child, like an autistic child. During that time, I was very strict about office time, especially for my team. I'm like, no, you have to get here before 9 and stay till like 5:30 at least. And I had to make an exception to that one person, but that one person actually was able to give me a lot of really good results with a lot of different projects. So yes, I think the answer to your question, Deepa, is that culture fit is more important than technical fit. But I think they work hand in hand, and especially you need to be very wary of defining what the right cultural things are that you're looking for. Culture fit tends to be sometimes, in the West this happens a lot, an excuse for people to hire people who are very similar to them in terms of personality and coolness. Like, I want to be able to have coffee with this person outside of office. No, that's not culture fit. Like, you might hate people outside the office, right? They might not be cool. They might not believe in the same things outside the office. They might not have the same views on, I don't know, like sensitive things like politics and religion. But like, the cultural levers are very different, and they serve the organization. They don't serve you. And your likes or dislikes in a person. So that's the thing you have to really be wary of when thinking about culture.
All right, great answer. Now let's move. Rashad has a follow-up question.
Yeah. So funnily, I think like 20 minutes before this call, I was talking with Sam about culture fit. So I was telling him that, maybe like always, instead of always looking for a cultural fit, you want someone who can actually improve your culture as well. Isn't, as the team expands, it becomes difficult because we may not be able to talk to everyone within the team. But how do we like get into a position where we find these people easily? And that might be a question there. Like, how do you find that? Like, you are right. I agree on the fact that we don't want everyone to be of a very, very similar culture all the time. We want to see like who can push the culture sort of up. The other part is like it's about like finding the people, because Nafisa struggles a lot since she is our talent focused person. In a lot of the time they can do it part, like they can solve the technical test and everything, but they don't want it, and we struggle with that a lot. Like we meet a lot of people who are sort of there but not there, like it feels like that, how can we have some of that element of like that part, like whether do they want it or not, baked into the first part, or can we at all?
Yeah, I think the easy answer to like how do you find those people is just increase your sample size, right? Statistically speaking, like if right now you've had to interview 200 people to find the one good person, if you want to hire 5, you have to interview 1,000, and it sucks, but. It's all a funnel and a numbers game at the end of the day. But yeah, you also like sometimes you have to take some risky bets with people, but also it's going to be it's always going to be trial and error and refining that funnel of people. And I think one, if I say tip that I would have is, yes, Nafisa is probably the person who's helping you source people. But I can see like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, 8, 9, 10. There's 10 people on this call, right? Like, how can you use everyone on your team as a recruiter? How we did that at Pathao. I'm not saying you need to steal this idea. Actually, a little bit wary of saying it, but I'll say it anyway. We had a referral program, a monetary cash prize for referral program. So, if one person, so we had 3 levels: junior, mid, and senior. If you, we made it so simple, right? If you refer a junior person for a particular position, and they get through the very strenuous application process and get in and get the job, and they survive the probation period of 3 months, then for a junior person you get 10K in cash prize. For a mid you get 20K, and for a senior person for a very hard position you get 30K. So essentially what that did was it turned everyone in the company into a recruiter, where they're like thinking, oh shit, like who do I know that might be a good fit for the positions that we have. And they were turning into a recruiter in terms of they were calling up their friends and convincing them, hey bro, like I think you need to apply for this job. And in the middle also going up to HR and be like, oh, I think this person you should interview, right? And then but we had to have rails around you couldn't refer someone in your own team. But I know that might be a bit hard because Airwork is a small team. But that's something to think about, right? Like you could turn into some sort of referral program. Gojek did that too. They had a referral program where if you referred someone and they got hired, you'd get cash. And so all of a sudden, everyone has their recruiter hats on, and they'll actually you'll see people working together. When money is involved, everyone gets really creative. So that's something that people can follow, to be honest. Yeah.
I think we can definitely implement it straight away.
Yeah.
So in terms of channels, Sifat, let's get tactical now. In terms of channels, what channel would you say was your most successful channel that resulted in successful hires that passed probations?
It varies with every position. I'll tell you, like let's brainstorm. Give me like 2 or 3 positions that you want me to go in depth for, and I'll tell you exactly what we did for them.
So we're right now hiring internally. We're hiring for one senior backend engineer.
Yeah.
Then we have a content manager position to manage our social media. Then there is a data analyst position. So mostly technical roles, I would say. Some marketing, social media roles, let's say.
Right. So I'll take the engineer one first, backend, then talk about content, and then talk about the data analyst, right? When we and I'll give examples from the past from Pathao and whatnot. When Pathao started, we realized that there were a lot of really good. I think this problem still persists in Bangladesh, where there's a lot of good coders. Very good, like raw engineers, but people who worked on products with scale, it was very lacking, because we were looking at, I think 2017 Pathao, we'd already had 100,000 downloads. We were pushing like 30,000 transactions a day. Stuff was breaking every day, and like the engineers were fantastic. Architecture wise, no one had worked with something like that in Bangladesh. Very few companies had, and very few people had. So we kind of had to identify. There was a company which I don't think it exists anymore. There's a dev firm called Boshundhara P1. Do you guys remember that? So we started calling Pathao P2 because like P1 we would poach engineers. One guy from P1 who took our product to I think he works in Germany now. He's a great engineer. And so like I sat down with him. I'm like, and he was really scared because Boshundhara Group obviously had a reputation for being a little bit. Their practices were a bit questionable, especially if an ex-employee is poaching employees. So he was very, very scared, but I basically sat down with him, went through LinkedIn and just be like, hey man, like there's all these 30 engineers, like who do you actually know here? Who have you worked with? Who are good? And then he said, man, this guy is like the best QA guy we have and all of that. And some of them are like, okay, like you don't have to contact them. Why don't you give me their number and I'll reach out, right? So the learning here is like, man, just try to understand like, given the type of product you're working with, the type of tech you're working with, and the team size and the complexity and everything, start with 5. Like, what are 5 companies in Dhaka right now who check all those boxes? And this is something we do in the recruiting world. Is we call it market mapping. So, for example, I did a hire for a venture capital firm, and they were hiring for an associate, right? Associate in investments associate. So these are people that find startups and pay them money. And throughout that process, we were like, okay, we wanted to map all of the VC world for associates in Indonesia. So what I did is I have LinkedIn Premium. It took me 2 weeks to do it, and it was hella boring. But I went through I first try to find out how many VCs are there in Indonesia who have offices in Jakarta, and I went through all of their either website pages or their LinkedIn people pages, and I searched who are the people who are working on the investment side, and then I have a spreadsheet of like 200 plus people. It's pretty much like we've mapped everyone. There's no one, unless they've joined in the last 3 months, that I don't have on my spreadsheet. And what I do after that is I've added all of them up on LinkedIn. I've spoken to some of them, and I have that network now. August 2025, if anyone in Indonesia comes up to me and say, hey, I need an investments professional, ideally 4 to 6 years experience, worked with fintech, polished or whatever, I have a pool that I can tap into. So that's called market mapping, and this is what professional recruiters do. This is our bread and butter. Like, this is what we do, market mapping. Just for an engineer, find the tech stack, find the companies that are working on the tech stack, and this is where the engineering heads in the company have to come together and use their brain. And just start with 5 companies. Map 5 companies. If they have 5 engineers each, send 25 cold messages and see what happens. And then when the 25 don't work, refine the search, make it broader, look into certain companies again. Yeah, and just it's a trial and error. Like, that's how I would hire engineers. That would be my engineering, like, funnel, top of funnel. For content, I would take a radically different approach. I would basically be like, have a slight vision for what the content one needs to achieve. See who's out there who's doing such fun content. If you recognize, I mean, this similar approach, I guess, like, but if you see, like, okay, like, this is the content that we want, reach out to them. Like, dude, I want that for me. Like, you're getting 20,000 now, I'll pay you 25. Like, come work with me. And see if they agree. And if not, like, ask them, do they have a referral? Do they have a friend who can do the same thing? That's how I would do content. What was the other one? Data. Data is an interesting one, right? Like, again, you have to think about your salary and your expectations and whatnot. Data is one that I made a killing in terms of hiring the best people. And the best people actually didn't end up coming from people who had done courses or worked in data teams for other companies. The best people, our 3 most unbelievably smart data engineers who came from NSU engineering program while they were students. Essentially, we'd hired one of the lecturers of NSU who was a data scientist. He was the head of data science, Hasan. We'd hired him, and then he'd recommended, hey, I want to bring on these 3 interns. These are my 3 best students. Those guys stayed in the company for like 3. I think one of them works for Amazon in London now. Like, they're just hella smart. Like, they're mathematicians. And so you could take that route as well, right? Like, are they, like, if you can find like coachable mathematicians and you've already got good data people on the team, you could do that. It's a funny one because, like, quite often I think in data analytics there's still a lot of room to grow in the Bangladesh market. Targeting companies might not be it. Raw skill might be it. That's what works for us. Not sure if it's going to work for you guys, but these are just examples of like the different approach. But if you had to have a common string, it's just like you just ask one question. Like, it's 2 questions. Like, what are the skills that we're looking for? Who in our geography has those skills? Who have done it right and just emulate them? Like, Bikash ended up hiring, I think, about 50 employees from Pathao because word had spread to their recruiters that, like, by 2019, 2020, that Pathao hired like really good people. So if anyone's been at Pathao for 2 years, they were getting a call from Bikash. And funnily enough, it was an ex-employee of Pathao who went to the Bikash team and started this. So, the war for talent is cutthroat. Just be like, man, be ruthless with it. Like, call your friend's company. Like, if you like someone, just you can hire them.
All right. I think we got Farhan like that. Farhan posted this viral video on Instagram, and I sent it to Samia. She's like, "Oh, I know him." And we got talking, and then we eventually ended up hiring him. So Sifat,
Farhan actually kind of worked with me for the last 3 companies, and people know that, okay, if I'm going, Farhan is going somewhere.
Yeah. And imagine, okay, so that worked for you and Farhan, right? Like, but imagine if you can do it at scale, right? Like
Yeah.
let's say Shamim and Rafid and Deepa, they all know like a smart friend, and who trusts them and who's worked with them before. Like honestly, after this call, just stay on, like after I drop off, just stay on this call for 10 minutes and like list down, like go one by one, who are the 5 smartest people you know, and like, and just get them down. Like, that's how we hired Saim, you know Andalib, right? Andalib Hassan works. Yeah. That's how we hired Andalib. Andalib was, so I had a very smart graduate from BUP in my team called Sivan. Sivan works at Bikash now. Sivan's friend's ex-boyfriend was Andalib. And like at the time we were trying to hire really smart like data people, and he's like, man, I know this bhaiya, Andali Bhai works at Banglalink. He's just, every time I've talked to him, he just came off really smart. Like, how do we hire him? So I was like, screw it, I'll still message him. And then he was down. Like, he was like, yeah, let's have coffee. And it took him about 6 months for us to close him, but that guy was so important for our business. Yeah, so like, that's how you do it, right? Who are the ex-boyfriends of your friends that you can approach? Like, just think about that, right?
Okay, Sifat, so you mentioned some of your workflows, but if we were to sort of nail down the platforms that you were using, so maybe LinkedIn, but for developers, you could argue that, okay, you want to look into their GitHub profiles,
Sure,
maybe for designers, Dribbble or Behance.
Absolutely,
So like, where are you looking for that information? Okay, that this is a credible, this is a good person for my team.
Yeah. So I'll answer this from a recruiter's perspective, right? Recruiter's perspective, not from an in-house recruiter's perspective, like an external recruiter's perspective. Like, who are the good people for my team? So when, let's say, like, I guess this is what Nafisa needs to take notes on, right? When, let's say, Saim says, or my stakeholder says, hey, I want a back-end engineer, the recruiter's job is to really, okay, back-end engineers, like, out of 8 billion world population, I could probably find 100 million back-end engineers. Like, that's how big the sample size is. You can't reach at 100 million people. But then you have to ask the follow-up questions and really, and this is the recruitment skill set where it really comes in, is how can you break it down into zeros and ones? How do you say, okay, we need a back-end engineer. Let's first think about the basics, like tech stack. Let's break down years of experience. Let's break down type of product that they worked on. Already from 100 million, you're down to like now 1 million now, right? If you can like tick off those things, that's a good place to start. Then you think about, okay, people that live in Dhaka, down to 20,000. Then you say, okay, people who'd be willing to work at a startup or has worked at a startup before. Maybe then you're down to 5,000, right? So it's asking those questions and trickling them down to, okay, this is, and maybe you've missed good people who would also work for you in those questions in the different sides of the funnel. But you need a small sample size to start from. When you are confident that you've exhausted that, then you go into wider cycles, right? Let me give you an example. So we, this is the one I was talking about with Saim a couple of weeks ago. We had this US-based health tech company who want to hire their first leadership employee in Southeast Asia. They already have a small team in the Philippines. And other than that, I mean, they're open to Singapore. They're open to anyone in Asia. Why Asia? Because they want to, they don't want to pay $10,000 a month. They only want to pay $4,000 or $5,000 a month. So they think they can get someone in Asia with that and of high quality, and also that this person will also need to manage a team in Asia. So our beginning sample size is Asia. The other thing that Asia operations people, huge market. Then we asked, then they were basically like, look, both the founders are ex-consultants, ex-McKinsey consultants, who were like, oh, it'd be really good to get like another McKinsey, Bain, or BCG person, right? So we're like, aha, that's a good place to start off from. So we literally went through LinkedIn. So tech stack-wise, LinkedIn, we have a scraper called LinkedIn Helper. We went through LinkedIn and we tried a few Boolean searches, and we found essentially, I think about like 2,000 people who were ex-BCG, Bain, McKinsey, and who had at least 3 years of experience, or at least 1 year of consulting experience and all that. So yeah, we were able to find 2,000 people on the search. We took that search, put it on the scraper, scraped out every profile. Then we went back and said, look, Singapore people are going to have a higher salary than what you want to pay. Let's get Singapore people out. Indonesia, Vietnam, the chance of the language barrier being high will be very high. So it might not be worth it to go through all of those people, even though there are very good English speakers in both countries. The two countries that will work really best is Malaysia and Philippines, because Malaysia, everyone's fluent in English. Philippines, everyone's got, why are balloons coming up? Everyone's good in English as well. So that's how we started. So we started with McKinsey, Bain, BCG, X, 4 years of experience, and Philippines and Malaysia. That list was about 1,600 people. We reached out to about 50, 60 people, got on call with about 10 people, forwarded about 5 people to the client. The client basically said, oh man, these guys are great, but they're like too expensive. We're like, cool. And then we narrowed it down to Philippines. So what the thing I'm trying to get across is like, you start with a hypothesis that, okay, this is what we will need. You dig into a certain part of the sample size in these markets, you get the answer, and then you calibrate your search. So we calibrated the search to, all right, let's do Philippines. I was showing Simon this. I have a spreadsheet with 800 people in the Philippines that I could reach out to. I have gone to every profile, each and every profile, and I mark them as yes, no, and maybe. No meaning they don't meet, no, because like a bunch of people came up on the search who were like, who did a 1 month internship at BCG or like a summer program, whatever. So those people obviously not, they're still students, so they're not experienced enough. The maybes are like, I'm not sure. The yeses are like, yeah, they've been a consultant. They're already working at a startup. Yes. So the yeses were probably about 200 people were yeses. I added everyone on LinkedIn Premium. Everyone. And then whoever, and I don't use InMail, by the way. I only use like, because InMail comes off as really pushy and recruitery, and I use InMail when it's needed and it's an urgent. But since we had a couple of weeks in our hand, I added them first. Once people, and this is where the art comes in. Why are people adding me? If you look at my LinkedIn is pretty damn sexy, right? Like it's curated to every line to make it seem like a profile whose friend request you want to accept. So this is where you have to optimize your LinkedIn like a Tinder profile, right? Like you have to really be intelligent about it. I used to have a very professional headshot of me. Then now I have a photo with of my travels. I have like a photo with a GoPro in my hand, which is actually a photo that I've taken for my social media pages, like my my travel page and whatnot. But I put that on, and I A/B tested these things. I don't know if my data was conclusive, but that's what you need to do. So I've seen Sam's LinkedIn, like it's pretty good, right? Like you're posting stuff, you're creating that brand online, like you're creating that profile on LinkedIn where people want to be friends with you, even if they don't want a job, right? So do that. Like everyone in the team should have a profile like that, where you're posting about the company, interesting updates, and make a video, make a scrappy video, make a smart post. LinkedIn is so underutilized. It is so misunderstood. People are trying so hard to be perfect and professional on LinkedIn. Just be goofy on LinkedIn and you immediately stand out. Everyone wants to talk to you because you're like, hey, you know what? This guy doesn't give a shit. Like he's goofy on LinkedIn, right? So be goofy on LinkedIn. It's okay. So that's what I've done. So I would add these 200 people, 50 people would accept. I would message all of them. And quite often these are not AI messages or copy paste messages. These are personal messages. It would take time, yes, but this is my job. I would just be like, if they've made a switch recently, I would add, I would copy paste most of the message. It would be short and sweet, but I'd be like, hey, I know you've just switched jobs like a few months ago, but is this something that you'd be interested in or in finding out more about?
Is this the message you type in while you're sending the connection request or after they connect with you?
Usually after they connect with me, but when I'm in a rush, I will sometimes use the add a note feature. But the thing is, I don't want them to, because there's a possibility that if you send in a note with your friend request, they'll just look at another recruiter, right? And they'll just reject it, and then you lose your chance to message them again and again and again. There's so many. I can show you where I was hiring for a position in January and I messaged someone, they didn't reply. I followed up twice. Hey, just checking in. Did you have the chance to read my message? Didn't check in. April, they came up on my search again for another position. I messaged them. At that point, they were probably having a fight with their boss and they were not enjoying their job. Immediate response. Immediately, they want to get on call. And then they're apologizing to me. Oh, sorry, I didn't see your message in January. They totally saw it. They were just on the mood to switch jobs, right? So when you added them, you have a contact for life. There's no one's gonna go out of their way to unfriend you, right? So that's why we usually just add people, because we realize that every recruiter is really comes off as really pushy. So we try to not come off as pushy. And I was talking to one of my good friends last night. He is a sales rep for a very innovative YC Combinator backed. I'm reading their profile, and sometimes when I copy paste a message, I don't care. Let me try to relate it to something to them. So my immediate, maybe I'll just start a conversation with hey, congrats on the new role, right? Oh, I saw that post on that you made about this really cool stuff, right? This is where a lot of EQ, emotional intelligence comes in. You have to have that emotional intelligence. But I do send out a lot of copy paste messages. I'm like, okay, you know what? Sometimes it's just not worth it. When you're trying to message 800 people, so it's not worth it. I just changed the name. I've made mistakes where I send out a lot of messages from my boss's profile. Like I've copied and pasted, and it's like, thanks, Ollie. Like, and then I'm like, oh crap, right? I've made those mistakes, but yeah, whatever. You take the L and you move on. Or LinkedIn does have an edit message feature where you can edit and like change the name. you gotta be intelligent about it, and just shoot your shot, man. Like it's all a funnel. You have to.
Yeah, it's
to try.
Very well thought out, I would say.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
once these people are connected with you,
Yeah.
let's say they're not relevant for this, they're not interested in this particular role, but you still want to maintain a relationship with them. So how do you do that? Like with over a long term, like how do you build a long term relationship?
So this is a personal philosophy that I like drilled it to everyone at Pathao, and hopefully it still lives on there, and like every organization that I've been in. And this is the thing for life, dude. Like, give everyone a positive experience. Like leave people with a positive experience in their mouth. When you're rejecting them, be really nice to them. Tell them that you're gonna reach out to them. Like give them values. When we had these big recruitment drives, like anyone who came to the Pathao office, they were offered tea, coffee. Anyone who met up with them, like just when you're rejecting them, like just have a personalized message, right? Even if you can't like do a personalized message, just be very realistic about expectations and be like, look, we're actually we've interviewed about 200 people with this position. I'm gonna send your profile to Saim, but if Saim rejects, we might not be able to get back to you. So feel free to follow up with me, and I'll give you a this is what I do now because I have so many people. I'm like, look, if by mid of next week I haven't reached out to you, it's probably because the client doesn't want your profile. But if I invite you to message me again on WhatsApp. I give them my WhatsApp, and I'll let you know like the exact like what's going on with your application. And this is where it's an art as well, because I have to be careful because I know their profile is not the top choice, right? But I don't want to reject them yet because I know he's next in line if my current interview fails. How do I keep them warm? Just be like, hey man, like I've talked to the client, like I think their interviews, I think they're on holiday or they're on pause, like they've paused their interviews for a little bit, but I'll let you know at the earliest. But I know what's going on. I know they don't like the profile. But so many times it's happened that they came back, oh, you know what, that other profile, I want to see them. And then you're like, fuck, I've already rejected this person. Like, what do I do, right? So the art of being a recruiter and being a good recruitment operations person is like just have that like, right? Like just keep them hanging, like a little bit. And then like the first thing I do, especially the good ones that I've like kept hanging, like when the position is closed, I will reach out to them and I'll be like, hey, like just want to let you know that the position's been filled. Thank you for thank you for your patience, and I know I've kept you waiting for 4 weeks. Let me know if I can help you. Like I've done CV reviews for these people. These people are like, hey man, like I'm actually like kind of struggling to find my new role. Like, do you want to like look at my CV? And like, yeah, I'm like, sure, I'll do it, and I'll do those nice things for them, and just keep a good relationship. And these are the people who will be your evangelists later on. They'll be like, they'll give you a good clients, they'll give you a good people, and then you can reach out to them for any help. So it takes a lot of effort, but and a lot of the times this effort when you're trying to run a business seems like it's not worth it, right? It's like, oh man, why should I go through that, like spend 1 more hour in the day trying to be personal with these people? But in the long term they can really come back and help you. So I think in answer to your question, short answer is like, just leave everyone with a good taste in their mouths, right? Like when we were hiring the management trainees in Pathao, we had about 1,000 people come to our office for the assessments. The SAT assessment. Another hack, right? We did those in person. We had tech that we can do. We could do an online thing, but at that point, our employer brand was so weak, and we just got our new office in Gulshan, in Q3 of 2017. Like there was even some rooms that there weren't ACs and like all the amenities were not there. But we were like, screw it, let's just bring everyone in. And we got like a freaking fuchka stand at the office. We got fuchka and like, because we didn't have the budget for pizza. So we're like, "Ay, shobai fuchka khawai." Like just get fuchka in the office. So we had those Nescafe machines, those vending machines, which holude je coffee khawai na oigula, and then we had fuchka. We're like, okay, let's give these kids a 1-hour exam. And it was a Saturday. We got everyone, like we got the head of food operations, we got the head of data science. Let's just had them lurking around. And let's make it into a networking session. So they're going to sit in for their exam for 1 hour. We'll end the exam and then we'll just give them a free for all. Though, like I just told them, yeah, feel free to walk around the office, talk to anyone that you want, ask any questions, have enjoy fuchka and free fuchka and coffee. And people were elated, right? Like only, I think out of the 800 people, like only 150 people were called back for next interviews. And I told them that in the briefing. I was like, you know what? For some of you, this will be the last time we see you guys, but for some of you, we'll see you again. but like I want this to be valuable, so ask any questions that you want and all that. And people were elated, and like even when they knew they were getting rejected and they were going home, they were coming home and posting photos of like the Pathao office. So had a great time at the Pathao office, and 100 of their Facebook friends are looking at like, oh wow, Pathao has a cool office, maybe I'll apply for them. That's it. That's the whole game. Like, give everyone a positive experience, it will come back. Like some bhai will tell another bhai that this company is doing well, and somehow you'll land a really good hire. Like, that's how it works.
All right, very, very interesting with the fuchka tactic over there.
Like, do what you can, right? Like, if you can afford pizza, do a pizza, or like do fuchka. Like, food always works. Food works all the time.
I can attest. I worked in F&B for 6 years.
Yeah.
So let's look the client side a little. So you know how keeping the talents warm is one tactic you'd use. Why don't you walk us through the client side of the experience?
Yeah, like how do you keep the client engaged, right? Like that kind of thing. So telling them about your every move, right? So okay, so I'll continue on the story from that US client that we're talking about, the McKinsey Bain BCG. We are still closing the position, and turns out we're now have switched goalposts. We're no longer looking at McKinsey Bain BCG, right? So after going through 800 profiles, we've come to that. Because then we found like another pool of like these management trainee programs in Philippines that were like had really good candidates, and their salary expectation was lower. So we started like sourcing 30, 40, 50 profiles at once, and we're still closing that, and I think we're going to close it this month. So I think when you've taken on a client and a piece of work for them, giving them like regular updates. So on a Friday, which is my last working day, and I have Saturday, Sunday off. On a Friday, I sit down with my boss in the morning and be like, okay, like, this is where we are with these clients. We want to, even if we haven't made any progress since last Friday, we want to show them what we've done, what kind of progress we've made. So like, hey, like on our last chat, hey George, just want to give you an update. On our last chat, we talked about profiles. So this week we were able to go through about 150 of these profiles. We got on calls with 25 of them, and like sadly no one's interested or good enough right now. But we'll keep on looking. We've got about 5 calls booked next week already. We'll keep you posted as they come. And they really appreciate that. They're like, okay. They're working on it, they're still on it, right? And they'll actually give you some more information. They're like, oh, actually, these are the 2 groups of people you're working on. Actually, scratch the second part, work on this one. And they're going to help you calibrate. So I think just keeping them warm. The other trap that recruiters, and you guys will fall into this, is, and we have to be very careful, is like clients will always want you to change the goalpost. Like when things are not working, especially startup people, they're like very ADD, right? They're just gonna go from one thing to the other thing and the other thing. You have to keep them accountable as well, right? Like last week we got a message from this guy George, and he was like, hey, so I just realized we might need to hire from this, and he gave us like 3 new criterias. Now an amateur recruiter, what they would do is they'd be like, aye boss, let's go down that route, and then exhaust your resources to try to find that. But you have to kind of ask that question. Like me and my boss sat down like, yo, this is an impossible like task that he's given us. So what we basically said is, okay, let's find 3 or 4 profiles from these groups that he's given us. Let's get some data points together, and then we'll send him a response and be like, hey, these are our initial observations. We've got some thoughts. Let's recalibrate on a call. Right, so you give them some data. You don't do exactly what they say. You don't be like, hey, you say jump, I say how high. Like not that. Like you got to be really careful with what, because clients will make you dance all the time. You just be like, I'm listening. You acknowledge what they say, and then you get on a discussion with them. Because the last candidate that we sent them, the CEO was raving about this person. They're like, oh, I'm gonna hire this person for sure. Like first interview done, second interview they give him a case study. Case study was kick ass. He was like, oh, I'm gonna hire this person for sure. Last interview was a group interview with the founder and like some of the other team members. Some of the other team members didn't like this girl. They're like, oh, they don't have this. And like the CEO emailed me saying like, I still want to hire her, but I can't hire someone that my team has already rejected, right? So now we're like, so there's more people. So now we're trying to get him on a call first, really understand what's going on, who's making the decisions. And then basically this call that we have on Tuesday is going to be about me and the CEO figuring out, okay, what is the type of hire that I can throw at you that's going to satisfy you and your team members? And then I'm actually going to suggest on that call, should we also get on a call with your other team members who are assessing so that we get an, like, it's about getting buy-in, right? Like, Simon, when you have a decision that you know is the right decision, you can't just throw it at your team and have everyone accept. You kind of have to knock Samiha, like, privately, hey, I'm thinking of, like, announcing this to the team. Do you think it's the right decision? You get their buy-in. Then you message Rashid, and then you get Rashid's buy-in. And then by the time you're in a group together, you've gotten everyone's buy-in, and everyone's like, hey, Hassan bhai, right. Sure. So when you're breaking the news, like, it's a little bit of, like, for the lack of a better word, social engineering almost. Like, you have to, like, engineer, okay, who are the, like, because you don't want to make anyone unhappy in your team with a hire. Right? How do you engineer work around that? That's it. So with clients, you have to do a little bit of engineering. You have to understand, okay, who's the decision maker very early? How much are they willing to, like, what's going to be the path of least work where you can get the most ideal result? And you have to advise the client. Like, you always have to come across to the client that you probably know better than this than they do. And you have to be able to relate. You have to be able to name drop a little bit. Oh yeah, we worked with that company who had a very similar challenge, so this is what we did with them. Actually, your budget is a little bit lower than or higher than what it needs to be. We can probably get it for this. And all of a sudden, the client will trust you more because they'll be like, oh, okay.
Got it. So in terms of client acquisition, I know you handle more of the recruiting part, but how, let's say, in terms of acquiring clients, which channels would you recommend? Like, I remember when we met, you were saying this client was, you just straight up cold DM them on LinkedIn. So what channels are working for you guys? For
us, my company, like, I'll be honest, like, last 6 months, the recruitment business has been kind of wonky. One thing is riches are in the niches, so you have to pick a niche. Or at least, like, for a company like yours, your niche is like engineers and stuff, then technical people, and you have done well. So pick a niche, and every niche will have a different process that works. Our company, the company that I'm working for, really came up. COVID was sort of dying down, and money was really flowing into Southeast Asia. Like, if you look at the Tech in Asia news from like late 2021 to like mid 2022, before the collapse of tech companies started becoming, there was a lot of dumb money that flew into the market, right? Like, just VCs spending millions on like subpar startups. That's actually when our business took off, and so we started becoming a recruiter for VCs and their portfolio companies. So that's why our company is actually we're rethinking our strategy again. So our business then, and still our business now, came from us having networked with every VC out there in Indonesia, Singapore, Philippines, Vietnam, and then their portfolio companies. So any company that got funding, we got in touch with them. So if you want to get a similar market, set up an RSS feed for any time a company gets funding and that gets announced, and that's the next company you reach out to. That could be one strategy. The other strategy that we do is we do something called reverse pitching. This is really interesting for you guys. So reverse pitching hocche, when you, let's say you found 10 people in your pool of candidates inside, where, like, man, you found like 10 amazing like Java developers, right? Amazing. They're good, but they're looking for jobs and they haven't found jobs yet. You go through every company that's trying to hire a Java developer, right? Because if you message a company and say, hey, I'm a recruiter, I can recruit for you guys, they'll be like, I've had 50 of these messages. But if you message someone in those companies and saying, hey, I just saw your position open for Java developer, I actually have a guy who's like 6+ years experience who like worked on a similar product to yours at like a very high level. They're looking for new roles. Would you be interested in like chatting to this person? All of a sudden, you've reached out to them with a problem they're trying to solve, and you have the solution. So they're way more inclined to get in call with them. So we do reverse pitching. So basically, we're asking that question, but what we're really asking them is, hey, are you willing to take on a recruiter? And we're giving them the bait. We're giving manamula chula dichi, right? We're giving them the bait. I already have someone. I already have 5 people. I'm not a recruiter who's going to take on this business and go try to find person for them. I already have them. Like, I'm happy to make a recommendation. And that's when we're like, all right, fine, get on a call. And when you get on a call, you close them. You're like, oh, yeah, cool. So, so I've got this one guy, I've got another guy, like, our rate's 20%. Like, do you guys want to go ahead? And often they're like so desperate for this intro. And then they'll clarify terms. They're like, okay, so you only get paid if the person is hired and they pass probation. You're like, yeah, you clarify those terms and you send them the terms and you have a signed client. But then the advantage is once you've signed a client, you can work with any position for them, right? Like, oh, you're hiring a Java developer. Oh, I also saw you're hiring a product manager. Guess what? I got product managers too. And then one client can get you like 5 closes, right? Who knows, right? That's kind of, so reverse pitching is a way. Setting up RSS feeds in your niche is a way. Infinite ways. Like, man, the last big close that we had was like the US client that I'm working with is someone I went on a pool party with in Jakarta, and like that's it. Like, sometimes it's just like that. Like, he's a really smart guy. He used to like surfing, so when COVID hit, he went to Lombok. He helped me find a place. We went surfing once, and I partied with him essentially. And he's a data analyst. He's a data engineer, and he posted about, hey, we're trying to hire operations person in Singapore. And I was like, oh, I hire in Singapore. Let's get on a call. And I got on a call with him. He introduced me to his boss. So just like network, man. Tap your network. Like Samiha, you look like you're sitting at a nice cafe. Like, who's sitting next to you, right? Like, are they a business owner? Like, just knock up to them, like, talk to them. Like, you never know. Like, these things come out of the blue, and like it can result in money. So like, we're in the business of people. Don't be afraid of people, right?
Yeah. So I think we're over the one hour mark.
It's
I
fine,
hope, Sifat, it's fine.
Yeah, I've got time. It's fine.
We have a couple more questions.
Yeah, sure.
It's basically about more industry related stuff. Before that though, these let's say potential clients or clients you've worked with, or maybe it somehow didn't work out, or on the other side you have talents and maybe that didn't work out as well. Do you do interim follow-ups with them just to maintain the relationship and keep them warm?
Yeah.
If yes, then how do you do it?
Tough. On the client side of things, so our business has two wings. One is a full-time like headhunting, like recruitment for like full-time positions. We also have something called fractional work. So what we do is we've been really successful in the CFO space, where let's say Series A, Series B companies who are fundraising, or they have a very specific modeling or fundraising work to do. Let's say they have a CFO internally who's very good in being an operational CFO, but they need that one person for fundraising or whatnot. So we have people on our roster, like 10, 20 CFOs who are fractional CFOs. So we'll give them 3-4 engagements at a time, and then they'll get paid, and we make a commission of that. So on the fractional side of things, what we do is we always keep them engaged with like workshops and stuff. So we will invite them to, hey, like we're having, like, give them free value, right? Like, hey, Singapore has a new tax law coming up. What is it all about? We already have an expert, so we'll invite all our 30 clients and just be like, oh yeah, like we're hosting like a free session on like this. So we do things like that. In Singapore, we have a lot of in-person like meetups and stuff. Like we'll do it like once or twice a month. When we went to Indonesia, right? So we had a lot of, we just had we booked a table at a nice like restaurant and bar, and like we paid for drinks for everyone. And it was just a very informal Tuesday night. Like people came, we had some nachos and drinks, and we just talked to everyone. I mean, we invited like 30 people, like 12 showed up, and it was still okay. Like we do those things. At least they remember us, right? Like, yo, the guys from Singapore came. And so we do those things on the client side. On the candidate side, so we only do this for people who have placed. We always have lunch and dinner with them when we're in the same city. So when I went to Jakarta, we had lunch with every candidate we've placed in Indonesia. And there's about like 5 or 6 of them who came, and we just had lunch and do those things. With the candidates who you don't place, obviously there's a lot of them. You should have some system of like finding the best and like do something with them. Like I will there's a list of people that I'll check in on suddenly, because these are the people you want to keep warm, because these are the people you want to represent later on. So we're like, I'll check in like, hey man, were you able to find a position? Oh, you joined this new place, how is it? Do you like it? Do you not like it? You'll find like the 2 people who joined a new position but they don't like it, and then all of a sudden you can, within an hour, you can reverse pitch him to like 5 different companies, right? Just making enjoy making money.
All right.
That's what you do. So those are some ways that you can do it.
Thank you for that. So now let's move on to the more industry stuff. Do you think, during COVID there was a boom in remote work, there was a work from home boom? We've gone more hybrid, but how do you see the future evolving? Like, how do you see workplace evolving as we progress, get into 2030s?
Man, I don't know. Like, I think obviously like by 2030, out of the 10 people, 3 people in this call will be virtual, right? Like 3 of them will be AI agents, and we won't even know that they're AI agents, but that's going to be it. So in that way, I think It's hard to say, man. Like I'm gonna say something, then things will go completely the different way. I think hybrid is here to stay, and not remote is because during COVID people really missed on that person to person thing. Like, and so hybrid is here to stay. But then, what we will start seeing is the AI stuff of things become like taking in more human forms, right? So like you'll have people on Slack who are gossiping with you more than the real people because they're programmed to be that nice, like, fun employee. So that's going to be it. So I think that if I were to prepare people, and this is like a personal thing, is like because machines are going to get smarter, focus on the things that machines can't do and won't be able to do for the 10 years, like being a nice guy. Like, machines won't eat food, so like feed your employees and your like get fuchka and Nescafe for your employees, for your friends and colleagues as much as possible, because those are the things that AI won't take over. And yeah, I think hybrid is a good thing, right? Like have a healthy balance between giving people space and flexibility, but also almost forcing a meetup once in a while.
So how do you do that with distributed teams? Let's say Deepa is in Nepal. We have talents all over the world. Like you're in Dhaka, your team members are in Singapore. How do you manage hybrid then?
Just get really creative about it. So like the company Zendit, right? So Zendit Zendit used to do this crazy thing where every time someone should join the company, for the first 3 months they would get to do a one-on-one, like the joiners of that month would be able to do, like, let's say a 20-to-1 session with one of the chiefs, so the CTO, CFO and all of that. And everyone, so they would do this meticulously, this operation. They would get everyone's address, and right before that call, they would send like a coffee or like a treat to that person's house, and they would do it. And there was like a person dedicated to making sure this happened. So right, like an hour before the call, someone would like bring up sweets and stuff at the house, and they were like, "Oh my god, this is crazy!" And this is like, and there'd be a handwritten note saying like, "Hey, this is in preparation for the call," like a personal present from like our CTO, and like crazy shit like that. They did it, like they would do it, and like I was like, wow, this is cool, because like they couldn't meet up in person, but they were trying to get that. And then at Gojek, there's a guy, you might know him. His name is Ryu Suliavan. He's he's the founder of Midtrans, got acquired by Gojek, and he's just a boss in like the Indonesian business industry. Ryu got bubble tea for everyone on his birthday, like everyone, 650 people. So as HR for Ryu, I had to freaking go to 500 of my stakeholders and like get their current home addresses, and everyone's like, "What is this for?" I'm like, "No, just like merchandise, whatever, right?" And then we had to go on this like operation of sending everyone bubble tea. It was annoying, but yeah, they tried to do things like that. Actually, Gojek did this so well, right? Like, we had work from home. When work from home became a thing, they took the cost savings from the office electricity bill and they repackaged it into, we're giving everyone this much taka, this much rupiah to buy a new chair or like buy a new monitor and set up their home. And actually we made a profit from that, but they were masters of like of repackaging costs, right? If we're saving on costs here, what can we spend on that makes the employee like warm and fuzzy in their hearts? So like we did those things a lot. And yeah, if it's like one or two people, like, I know flights are super expensive nowadays, but like try to like fly them out, like if you have the money. But I know like early stages, it's really hard.
I think we're on the right track. We just came back from a team retreat. The entire team, we went to Maimanching. And Deepa couldn't join us, but we sent her to a resort in Nepal at the same time.
Yeah.
And we were sharing pictures in our Discord channel.
Like time. You do what you can, right? You do what you can. And as employees, you have to understand as well, like A for effort. Sometimes you got to give an A for effort to Sam and everyone. I think it's here to stay, man. And the thing is like the power, right? Like Deepa, like I love Kathmandu but I would say like I think Kathmandu tech scene is also growing, but I think Kathmandu tech scene is still at like 2020 Dhaka tech scene, and like if we think about the reach that the product Airwork can have, like the place where the SF tech scene is right now will take the Dhaka tech scene like till 2035 to get to, right? But with distributed teams and products and SaaS, you have the power to serve this SF market with software you're building here. Deepa can be in Kathmandu and work with Dhaka and all the countries that Airwork is being able to leverage, right? So that's powerful. Like, how do we like that? Probably that benefit of being able to work with anyone in the world with a product, like Pathao is a really shit product in that way, right? Because Pathao was like, until we hired Ashim Dai in Nepal and got the office, we weren't able to expand there. But with a SaaS product, you can expand anywhere. And if you think about the reach and the power, it's insane. So like I think what I'm trying to get at is like, whatever you miss out for not being together in person, you make up for it in the upside that you can get. Like if Airwork becomes a multi-million-dollar company, man, you guys are all walking away with a ton of cash. Like, remember that, right? Like, you probably are, like, if you're part of something big, like the first 30 Facebook employees, like how much did they make? Like, not even Facebook. Think about, like, man, Lovable. We're talking about, there's my friend works in Legora, right? He was employee number 70, I think. His stock, like, holy crap, like the number projections is looking scary at how much money they can make. So like, yeah, I'm sorry, I went in a different direction, but that's it, right? Like that's the upside.
I keep telling them it's not very difficult. It's not rocket science. And if we all stick together, if we put our combined efforts, I think we can definitely do it. So last question from my end, and then I'll just open the floor for everyone, and then we can wrap up. It's a more on the lighter side of things. What's the most interesting hiring experience that you've ever had? And this one's from Deepa as well.
Most interesting hiring experience. They're all interesting. I mean, most interesting hiring experience. I've got a lot of bad ones, right? Like, of people like bailing and stuff. It's really hard to say one interesting experience. I will say, like, most memorable ones, I'll say, I think the management trainee scheme at Pathao was just like the most fun that we ever had, right? Like, because we had, at that point, we just got in our Series A, so we had money. So we gave people fuchka, and we had that nice office. And that recruitment was exciting because we were just like, that one announcement made us like viral in the internet, among graduates in Bangladesh, at least, like where everyone wanted to work with us. Because the videos and the posts and went viral, and so I think the interesting wise, it was like within 3 months we were able to flip the script from like, hey, this like little startup trying to hire people, to like us getting thousands of like requests and CVs, and universities coming to me to speak at their like thing, and then giving us a primary booth at their career fair. It was really interesting how we were able to flip that in like 3-4 months time. So that was like quite interesting as an experience. Yeah, and like the interesting part was like, 6 months before to that, and this is where we go back to the question of keeping candidates warm, right? We met up a few like awesome candidates who we wanted to work with 6 months before. At that point, we could, let's say, their salaries were like 3 lakhs, and we could only offer them like 120, 150. So there was no way they were going to switch. All of a sudden, they were coming back to us because they'd seen their friends use the product. They were seeing all the branding. They heard about our fundraising. They were knocking us again, like, hey, bro, I think I'm finally ready to leave Grameen Phone or Bikash, and like, I'd love to come work with you. Those things are really interesting. Yeah, I think other interesting hiring experiences were like, and I'll talk about like Nepal was so much fun, right? Like when we hired people in Nepal, man, the first 3-day visit to Kathmandu, 2017, we'd set up like 36 interviews. And like, obviously I had no idea about the talent in Nepal and people. And like, I think about 30 of them were a waste of time because like, they were not good, but they looked good on LinkedIn. I was like, I just got like one of my team members to help set them up. And like understanding like we were on the streets in Kathmandu in Tamil, obviously, like talking to people on bikes in like Hindi, because like obviously like there's a language barrier, trying to explain to them what the app would do. And people in Nepal were like so nice because they were like, oh no, I will help my neighbor, but I don't need money, it's okay, right? Like and we talked about like, the locals came up and started telling us stories about the time, like, they had that oil blockade from India. So that's when ride sharing became a thing in Nepal, because that's when neighbors started helping each other to get to work so that they could use one bike and not both of their bikes, and that's how the bike. And so they're like, no, I will help my friend. It's okay. I don't need money. And we're like, wow, this is a better market than Dhaka because the drivers don't even want money. What if we can put them on an app? So like, I think those are some really exciting and that's part of recruitment, I guess, driver recruitment that we had. That was really fun. And then once we started getting our team together, Nepal became a thing. Like the head of marketing, when we hired them, just cool, like really cool people that we were able to attract. Sorry, like no, not one answer, but like there's just, when you're in the business of people, you just have all sorts of crazy experiences of meeting people. I'll tell you actually on that, I'll extend the answer. I will tell you my story of getting recruited and how that was very exciting and very unique. So I recruit people, don't tell anyone. I've never been hired from a recruitment process in the last 10 years. The last time I got hired from an application that I submitted my CV and answered a bunch of questions and did 5 rounds of interviews was at IBM in 2014. 2016, Pathao was like, my friend Kishwar just showed up to my house and we had noodles that my mom made and he convinced me to join. That was one. Second was Gojek. Gojek was a WhatsApp message. So I'd gone to the Gojek office a year ago through an investor, like for an investor visit because there are investors, and I met this like lady called Susan and she was like awesome, and I was like, oh man, I'd love to work with her. So when I was looking for roles, I had her WhatsApp message. I was like, should I WhatsApp her? And I did. I was just like, screw it, let's just I WhatsApped her. A week later she got back. I got on a call and I had a job offer. The Clickit job was an Instagram DM. So the CEO of Clickit was our chief strategy officer, Pathao, and when he announced his fundraise, I was like, oh, congrats on the new company, bro. And then he messaged me, bro, we need to talk. And I sent him straight away my calendar. I got the job from there. And then this job right now was, I actually approached my boss right now because he was writing on LinkedIn about fractional jobs. And I was like, oh, wow, I could be a fractional HR person. I can help out. Instead of working for one company, I can 5x my income and work for 5 companies. So I messaged him like, oh, I'd like to do some fractional HR work. And then he ended up hiring me and giving me a job. So much for that. But anyways, interesting because they all came from hey, what's up? And then I had a job. So so those are some so the business of people is very no matter how much structure you try to put into it, it's always unstructured in some way.
All right. I think we're done with all the questions we had. I'll open up the floor now. If you guys want to ask Sifat any question, please go ahead. Rashid, please.
Yeah. 2 questions, I think, or maybe 3. So one is one is what tools do you use, for your day-to-day jobs and operations? Second is, let's say in the HR tech industries, a lot of startups and products are coming up who are sort of trying to solve the similar problem. But one thing that I see is that in order to make the process scalable, we are coming up with a lot of hoops for our talents as well, right? So one part is that the part that we often translate as they don't want it might also be that our process is too lengthy for them, right? So
on the candidate side, yeah.
Yes, on the candidate side. So how do you make sure that even if you're using tools that is not happening? And also the previous question is, what tools do you use?
Yeah, so I'll start with the first one. And when I showed Sam was at my place and I was showing him this. Part of him, I think, was a little bit surprised at how primitive our tools are. How primitive. You're building a full stack HR software and I'm just on Google Sheets. So I use tech stack, LinkedIn Recruiter. I don't have a recruiter. My boss has a recruiter. Very useful because unlimited searches, unlimited messages, unlimited slicing and dicing of searches. LinkedIn Premium for me, I just have the basic premium. We do a lot of the scraping from the recruiter account, but then when I'm adding people, unlimited adding from my account. So premium only basic. Then we use LinkedIn Helper. We've reduced our dependency on that a little bit because I'm scared that one of our LinkedIn accounts might get blocked because we're using an illegal scraper, but we use LinkedIn Helper for the larger searches that we need to do. Notion. So we used to have a lot of, I think we've tried different software as ATSs, right? There's Google and there's Lever Ashby and all that. They're really expensive and they try to do too many things. Whereas I just need a database that I can search and tag things with. So we have a Notion where it's set up where I have a contact database and every time I talk to someone, I spin up their profile I put the LinkedIn profile there. I have an unstructured notes section, and then contact and all that. And then the most important thing for us is tagging, right? So we have tags for like what is their discipline, so marketing, finance, engineering, whatever, any languages if they're technical, and location and all that. So what that Notion helps us out with, like when we're starting a search, we're like, okay, we need a finance person in Jakarta, who's worked in fintech, let's say. So I can search for those 3 tags and actually find out like people in our, so we actually have a outsourced employee, like a junior employee in Indonesia, who helps us manage the data on our Notion, right? So that's how primitive we are. Basically, because sometimes what I'll do is when I'm having a rush, I'll just put their LinkedIn in, and no agent, no nothing, and I'll just take notes, and then I'll just say like my main person in Indonesia, once a week she will do like which are the ones that are untagged, and they'll go to their LinkedIn profile and just like find out whatever they can and tag it like what to her understanding. It doesn't need to be accurate, but that's the starting point. So Notion for that. ChatGPT for all my work. So I use ChatGPT. I'm a power user of Premium. What I do is I have projects. So this is what I do, and this is something you can really productize, right? When I am pitching a candidate to a client, I have a very structured way that I like to present my information. So I have a software called Rumi. Rumi is like granola, essentially, or like there's Gemini in Google Meet now that takes transcripts and notes. So Rumi helps me transcribe a chat. So I have a prompt in Rumi where I get the unabridged transcription of a chat. I download that in a PDF. I get the CV of the person in PDF, and I upload it to a already prompted and customized project on ChatGPT where I add these 2, and I add the job description of the job that I'm trying to pitch him for as well. And I basically say like, hey, like based on everything you know, like can you give me a pitch, a 3 bullet point pitch for this person for this job? So it gives me that, and I take that draft and I edit it for 3 days sometimes with my boss to get like a nice pitch. Because when I send in a CV, I like to like add my notes, and the notes have to be very very like okay, I'm going to give you like a Bangla example, right? When you go into when you go to a classroom and the teacher says write me a rachana about a goru, right? Like goru niye rachana lekho. Most people on their CVs, they say guru ঘাস খায়, bhera has wool, like ছাগল এটা করে. Right? People don't understand that like we don't need 5-page CVs, and the client doesn't need to know everything. The client is looking for one thing. Have you worked in a tech company before? Are you within budget? Can you do this one thing for me? So like those notes is where we take the CV, take all the information the client we've gathered from the candidate, and we try to direct it to the exact thing that the client is looking for. So if there's a software that can literally take the Guru Chagol, everything, the Bhera, and just get me the Guru out that matches with the Guru from the client, right? That's what I need from software, to be honest. So I've figured out a workflow like that. So that's actually a lot of value. Because I don't care if they're founders will not care about 10 years experience. They're literally just trying to find one person to solve one problem. Identify what that one problem is and get them the 5 people who can solve that one person and are experts at solving that one problem. You'll earn so much more trust from the client in that way. And like take out things from their CV. And clients and candidates become so egoistic. Like they're like, oh no, I have this master's advanced degree and I have 5 courses on Coursera I've done on data analytics. The client doesn't care. The client only cares about that one thing that will, and that's probably on page 9 of your CV or whatever. Bring that up and present only that to the client. So we take a lot of effort in doing that, and there's no tool yet that does that for me other than my ChatGPT project. So I do that. Other tools we use, so Notion, ChatGPT, Gemini for transcriptions, Rumi for notes, WhatsApp, and Google Sheets, man. Like I have written a few, like with ChatGPT, I wrote some scripts on Google Sheets, like where I can like mass email people and like get some data out and stuff like that. Very, very primitive though. Like for an engineer, like you'll laugh at the stuff that we've done, but it's good. But again, I think the point that I'm trying to get across is why we're doing this is because like, man, the Notion person tried to sell us Notion AI. It has all these bells and whistles, but it doesn't actually solve our problem, right? I tried using like Fresh Teams and Zoho Recruit, right? Like it's supposed to be like all recruiters in India use Zoho Recruit. I found it so shit. Like I couldn't work with it. Like I don't like. It's just so much easier to have everything on Google Sheets and Notion, and like, yeah, it's a little bit of manual work, but we have an intern in Indonesia doing all the grunt work, data work for us. Like, I think software should be simple, right? So that's the first part. Second question was like, how do you prevent candidate drop off, right? It's a tough one, right? So you have to give something and to get something, right? I would say like have maybe just a really wider thought. Have like low barrier to entry for getting them on the platform, but then get them excited about 3 roles. Maybe keep the roles anonymized but very relevant to them. At one point, they're incentivized to, okay, I'm going to go through the funnel and maybe answer more about this assessment questions, and I'll take this assessment and I'll do. So constantly giving them something to get something from them. I think that would be the approach. Maybe have a 3 tiers to get people on the platform. One, have a way to screen for who are actually the legit ones. I'm sure you get like thousands of like shit CVs and shit people on the platform signing up. Who are the top 10%? And engage that top 10% with like, hey Simon, here are 5 jobs that you might be very good for, and if you take this assessment, we'll tell you the names and we'll send your CV directly. See if you can funnel them down, and then like, oh, you really want to talk to them? Here's one more assessment, and like see if that's possible. Like give something to get something. That should be the approach. And like, you know, I know that you, like Simon and I talked about it, like what are success stories that you have right now? Get every placement that you've done and like make a 1-minute reel on them and like make it viral on TikTok, LinkedIn, Instagram, everywhere. And all of a sudden, like from my Facebook career content, the thing that I found is anything that can help people land a job. So like if you're trying to attract smart engineers to join cool companies where they're happy, have 5 smart engineers that you place and make like 5 videos about them. Pay them money if needed to do that. Because all of a sudden you're not a software. You're not promoting the software. You're promoting the benefit of the software. That is, you're getting the best talent into roles that they're very, very happy in. That's why, like, you sell the career opportunity. Don't sell the software. The software is just a means to get to that. You're not selling software. You're selling careers.
That's very deep.
Yeah.
Sifat, I have a follow-up question on the candidate side. We're receiving a lot of AI optimized resumes, and even in interviews, people can now say the right things on their resume in the interview, and it's becoming harder to sort of make that initial screening. Like, so what are your thoughts around that?
Man, like that's why interviews are still so important, right? Like, my most asked interview question is like, tell me more, right? So, oh, you did that in this company? Oh, tell me more. Relate with them, like, oh, you did this marketing campaign. Oh man, so you did both ATL and BTL and digital. Who was handling your digital? What did you do? And you peel back the layers and you test them to the limit where they're like, bhai, like, stop asking me questions. Like, you kind of go in deep, because at one point, if they're bullshitting, you will catch them, right? And that's why, like, that human connection, how do you scale that? I don't know. Like, maybe you have dynamic question answers, right? Like, where they answer something, AI reads it, and then AI asks the tell me more, or like specifically. So what I do is like, okay, you worked on this company, cool. What product did you work on? Discipline did you work on? We worked on this discipline. What was one project you worked on that you're really proud of? Oh, this one. Oh, like, what was the tough things about that product? Oh, I know that person in that company who did that project. I heard it failed pretty badly. Like, how did you come back from that? All of a sudden, you're calling bullshit, and like, you're getting them closer to break. But the ones that actually work on it and actually have, like, they will show weakness and they'll show vulnerability, and they're like, oh, like, this person actually knows what they're talking about. Can you AI-fy it? Probably. You could probably have an intelligent, like, assessment that can do that. It'll take a while to build, but you could probably do that. Can you do that through question and answer back and forth AI interviewer? Really? But or can you? Or man, make it easy. Why don't you? Before the candidate goes into an interview with a client or a perceived client, why don't you give the client the red flags about the candidate that you've picked up through AI? Like, hey, this person's talked about this. if I were you, these are the 5 questions that I'd ask them. And I'd ask them to drill down on this. That adds value. And that can also be AI powered and scalable, but also have that human element. Like, think simple.
All right. Thank you. That's very insightful. Any other question, guys, or we can wrap up today?
Maybe. Hey, Sifat bhai, good afternoon. So, as you can see, this is Iftihan. আমি হচ্ছে client নিয়ে কাজ করি. I'm working the client side of things. So, I do have 2 questions for you. First would be like in a sales call, maybe first like in initial calls with the client, maybe. So, how do you like get the person to a level যেখানে he's like comfortable with you? So, what I did last time, আমার example this, so that is I saw that guy, he's a like NRB, so I knew he'd been to cricket. So randomly, it was a call at 11:30. I said, "Hey, I just came back from a cricket match and stuff." So that was like, that thing made the whole like settings from a sales call to a like more human connection thing. So is there any like hack that you use in these sort of scenarios, or is it like keep it random?
Yeah, I mean, it's yeah. There's no hack really. Like try to connect with them as people. I think you're touching on the right points, right? It's just personalization. Like we talked about this during the messaging portion as well. When you're on a call, it's actually easy to do because you're a real person. They're a real person. They know you're online at 11. Like this client in the US, he got on a call with us at like 11 p.m. his time because he wanted to make time for us. Acknowledging that over bar bola je, hey, I really appreciate you taking the time at the rate. We're gonna try to make it quick. That is really it. So establish common grounds, understand their business. I would say like ask them like do some research on the business from before, but ask them like, hey, so like what are the blockers right now, right? So you're trying to hire this position, like what are the real problems that they're like you really need them to solve? And all of a sudden they will look at you as not someone who's just trying to make a commission on a placement. They're actually you are their partner who is brainstorming with them to help them solve their business problem, right? Like if we can connect on that level, then the sale becomes really easy. And so many times we have to go back to clients and say, hey, you think you need this person? In my experience of having worked with company X, Y, and Z, I think you actually might need a person who's closer to this, because this person will cost you this much when maybe I'm not sure they'll be able to get the results. This person will cost you less, but actually might be able to get you the results. Or it might be 2 cheap people rather than 1 expensive position that you're trying to hire. And you present them those things. And all of a sudden you'll see the reaction. Like some clients will be very adamant and they'll be like, no, I understand. I know my shit. Are you going to work with me or not? And for those, you play by the rules. But you try to come as the expert, right? I think that also helps. But yeah, and I think like there's not too much that I can say over like in terms of like a structure. Like people are unstructured, man. Just get to know them as people. It's sales skills. Get to know them as people, connect with them, and yeah, just connect with them in a way that they know you care about them. That's all.
Yeah. I guess that this works. Another last question. যেটা হচ্ছে যে how do you deal with like tougher clients who are like they're wrong maybe, but they're not willing to admit that they're wrong. They'll like push you for this and that. So how do you deal with them, and how do you make sure that like you guys can have the door open to collaborate in the future as well, maybe?
Yeah, like acknowledge like that okay, I understand why you feel this way or why you do this way, and like if let's say you're talking about a particular position or an approach in the market, come back with data. Like you are the expert, right? Like I can like I say this a lot on calls, like I can see like why you thought that was the right decision when it comes to people, right? Like I like a lot of founders actually make that mistake or like go down that route, and like that can give you mixed results. But in having done this for the last 1 year, we've done that approach 5 times and this new approach 5 times, and then we were actually able to get that. Come back to them with data. Like don't tell them that I think. Come back to them with, hey, so when we tried that approach, that actually failed for us. So acknowledge and then come back with data. And so say like just confront them with data, like but the data says this, and all of a sudden like you'll be able to like it's a much heavier argument than saying but I think, because you're not thinking, you're backing up with data. Like you can relate to them. Like I actually thought that might be the right approach as well, and so we did that. And then we actually like that gave us this results, whereas this other approach got us a better result, and that's how you can actually like get on the level and like hear them out, right? Like Like, why do you think my approach might be bad? And they'll give you the next 5 things that you need to build into your product. Like they'll tell you like what you really need to build, and then you'll be like, oh, okay. Like if we give them that, and then if you find the same feedback across 5 calls, you have your next feature that you need to prioritize. That's what you need to think about.
Guys, I think we're 1 hour and 45 minutes we're hitting, so we can wrap this up. If you guys have any more questions, we can definitely forward it to Sifat, and he will, I think, will appreciate the sort of eagerness to learn approach that we have in our team. So
this is cool.
Feel free to ask questions later as well.
Yeah, Sifat, find me on LinkedIn. I'm on it every day.
Yeah.
My life depends on it. So,
Sifat, thank you so much for literally helping us out here, and we really appreciate it. Hope that we get to collaborate down the line as well.
I'm looking forward to the software. I think Sam showed me a bunch of the new tools that you guys are building. It seems really cool. Keep building, guys. This is it's a very exciting time, and now that the whole it's so much easier to build on AI, and you've rebranded to Airwork AI, there's so many small problems that are $1 million problems that you can solve, and just one by one build on it. It's cool. It's easy. I think the problem right now is it's easy to get overwhelmed by the amount of things that you can build. Just pick one problem and solve it, and be the best at that, and then integrate with every other. Don't try to compete with HR software. Integrate with every HR software and just solve one problem. Right, some guy made 12K MRR by building a tool that connects a Notion board to a Google Sheet template. It could be dumb small problems like that you can help with, right? That are so obvious in your head, but that's actually what people want. So take it easy, right?
All right. Okay, we can wrap up for today, guys. Thank you so much, Sifat.